Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be a 10-minute report on the Buccaneers. Before we jump into the episode today, please make sure you follow me here on Spotify, as well as on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the 10-minute report series is where I take 20 minutes of film study plus my already established knowledge and create a 10-minute podcast for the team. With that being said, let's jump into today's episode, the 10-minute report on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Starting off, we're going to talk about the quarterback situation down in Tampa. As all of us know, Tom Brady has retired for the second time during this offseason, and it's looking like this will be a legit retirement, unlike the previous one, where he was retired for about, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days. But that leaves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with quite a predicament, I would say, at the quarterback position. They signed former Cleveland Browns and former Carolina Panthers quarterback and Los Angeles Rams quarterback Baker Mayfield this offseason. In Baker's 6-year career, he has 16,288 yards, 102 touchdowns, 64 interceptions, as well as a 61.4% completion percentage. So 16,000 yards in just about 6 years is definitely not numbers that you're looking for out of a franchise-level quarterback. We saw Baker kind of turn the Browns' offense, or their whole team around, with some help of, other key contributors in that Cleveland organization while he was there, i.e. Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. But no doubt, he definitely turned Cleveland around for a little bit. And then he kind of fell off into, I believe it was his year 3 of his career, and we never really saw him be the same. We've seen flashes of his, like the Rams game, the comeback game, but I do not think that he's a long-term solution. I would say he's probably their best bet to be a starter this year, at least at the beginning of the year, but I would consider it more of a Band-Aid or a temporary fix at the quarterback place. Other quarterbacks on their roster right now, they have Kyle Trask, who was drafted last year by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In his only NFL appearance against Atlanta, I believe, last year, he was 3 for 9 with 23 yards. Very small sample size, but we do have his college stats, obviously, at the University of Florida. Counting just he played for 3 years. Counting for his 2 full seasons as a starter, he has about 7,200 yards, 68 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, which is pretty solid numbers. So there definitely is some potential there for Kyle Trask to develop into, a starter of some level at least. Is it top of the league? Talent? Probably not. But you never know. We've seen it from many players prior, guys who don't start right away, still doing things. And as well as Hall of Famers having, poor or lackluster careers their first couple seasons. So Kyle Trask could be an option, but I do believe Baker will start. They also have John Wolford, who I believe most recently started as a Ram for a few games. But moving on to their defense, last year the Buccaneers defense, I would kind of say just below middle of the pack for their defensive ranks, how they performed last season. And they definitely, made an emphasis to keep their defense. If they know that their most glaring problem is going to be the quarterback, they know that their defense can keep them in some games. And we definitely seen them put in some effort for their defense this offseason. They re-signed cornerback Jamal Dean, who's been quite a playmaker for them in his 4-year career so far. He has 45 forced incompletions in 4 years, along with 7 interceptions and 193 tackles. Those are pretty good numbers for a starting cornerback. They're definitely hoping that he can continue along that track. They did lose cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting. Shout out Chippewas for that. But they do still have Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield Jr., and they did sign safety Ryan Neal this offseason, as well as they re-signed linebacker Levante David. Levante David's been a cornerstone of the Buccaneers defense for a long time, since he's been a Buck, really. But David has been one of the better linebackers in the league consistently throughout, I believe this will be his 12th season. But he last year was ranked second highest in linebacker coverage in the 2022 season, as well as he posted over 100 tackles for the 9th time in his 11-year career so far. So he's obviously incredible, finds the ball. Levante David is a good piece for them. And then the draft in the first round came as a little bit of a surprise or a reach, I would say, for some people. But the Buccaneers, they picked a player that they thought was strong and that could, help them boost their defense even more. And they drafted defensive lineman Kalijah Cansey out of Pitt, first round, I believe 19th overall. Could be wrong on that. But in his 3 seasons at Pitt, he had 52 tackles and 16 sacks as interior D lineman. Those are really good numbers. Kind of the biggest question mark, I guess, from scouts or analysts, is kind of just his size being interior D lineman. But I wouldn't be surprised. We see it all the time throughout all positions. Once players get in the pros, they find a way to add even a little bit more weight, a little bit more mass to them. So don't be surprised if that happens. But he will pair very nicely with defensive lineman Vita Vea, who has been good as well the past few years. And then this year in the 2022 or 2023 draft, the Buccaneers selected 6 out of their 9 draft picks were defensive players. So they're definitely looking to the future and looking to continue to develop their defensive mindset and try and get them, above that middle of the pack ranking, I guess we could call it, and, try and get them up in the upper third and help their offense out. Looking at the offensive side of the ball, they do have a couple other struggles outside of the quarterback situation. But in the second round, they drafted North Dakota State guard Cody Mock, and he has potential to be starting right guard, I believe, for the team, for the Buccaneers this season. We all know that he was, in the news quite a bit around the combine for his teeth appearance. And then they also have Tristan Wirfs, who's been a stud. We all know, I think it was like his rookie season was the year they won the Super Bowl. He started every game and allowed 1 sack or something in 20 games. And it was ridiculous. I want to say he was first team All-Pro his rookie year. But he'll be moving to left tackle this year, which opens up a question mark at right tackle. It's thought to be filled by Luke Goedke, who's been on the Buccaneers. But last season, he only played 55 out of 642 snaps at right tackle. So that's a little bit of a question mark for them. They're hoping that transition is well enough to be serviceable and not be a constant issue for them at the right tackle position. They do have Mike Evans. Obviously, he's posted over 1,000 yards for 7 rookie and 14, so 8 seasons now, I think. So he's looking for 9 seasons with 1,000 plus. They still have Chris Godwin, as well as I believe they signed Russell Cage, I want to say. But they're rushing attack, so they have the weapons on the outside to help the quarterback. Their rushing attack was ranked last in yards per game last season, which if any of you guys seen any Buccaneers games, there was stretches where Tom Brady was just throwing the ball for 15, 20 times in a row, it seemed like. And that's why he led the league in pass attempts last year with over 700, I want to say. So the most notable running back they have on their roster right now is Chase Edmonds, who in 6 seasons only has 1,800 yards and 11 touchdowns. So definitely not, number one running back type of player. And the Buccaneers only have about $2 million in cap space. So it does not seem like they will be able to fill or improve the running back position via free agency before the season starts. So that wraps up our 10-minute report on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which leaves me with just the record prediction for the 2023 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I predict that they will go 6-11. That's all I have for the 10-minute report Buccaneers. Once again, please make sure to follow on Spotify here, as well as on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you check out my other episodes, as well as stay tuned for future episodes. Go Ravens.